Maseches Gittin Daf Ayin Vav contains two Mishnayos, dividing the Daf into three separate sections. The first section is continuing our last sugya, discussing a Tanai condition that was made on the application of a get. We're going to be discussing two issues that are combined into one sugya. Number one is the rules of Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain, the Tanai which is made in the Torah, where the Shavatim of Gad and Ruvain said, if we go to Eretz Yisrael to fight, then we will get our land on Ever Yarden. If not, then not. And there's a machlekes here between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim, whether you need to follow all the rules, all the way that Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain made there tonight, if we need to do those also. Tanai kafel, Tanai kadam lamaisa, hein kadam lalav, maisa b'davar echad, Tanai b'davar echad, all those things. That's one sugya. We also have the sugya of what happens if she couldn't fulfill the Tanai. Does that mean that the get's not chal or not? So we begin with the Brisa, and the Gemara is going to ask that it contradicts another Brisa. The Brisa introduces us to the topic of Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanah's Machlokes. The Brisa says if somebody gives his wife again and says, here's again on the condition that you serve my father for 2 years, or on the condition that you nurse my son for 2 years. So Rabbi Meir says, even though the Tanai is not fulfilled, the Tanai is batal, and therefore the get counts. Right? Rabbi Meir says this was not done according to the rules of Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain, because you did not have Tanai kafel. He didn't say the yes and the no side of things, and therefore the Tanai is batal. If Tanai is batal, then the get works without the condition, as if he didn't say it at all. Chachamim disagree. They say no, you don't have to do Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain. You don't have to do a Tanai kafel. The Tanai works, and therefore she has to fulfill the Tanai in order for her to be able to get the get valid. Now the Brisa brings the third opinion, and it's not clear what the third opinion means to hold that. And that's for Shimon Gamliel. And he says that there's no Tanai in Ksuvim, meaning in the Tanakh, which is not a double Tanai that has the yes version, if this, then this, and if not this, then not this. Now, the Gemara asks, what does he mean? Who is Rav Shimon Gamliel speaking to? So the Gemara says he can learn either way. He could be either speaking to Rabbi Meir and he's disagreeing with him, and he's saying since every Tanai in all of Tanakh has that, it's what we call Shnei Ksuvim Habam Ke'echad Ve'im Malamdim. You have the same halacha appearing twice in the Torah, and the rule is when it appears twice, you don't make an extrapolation from there to anywhere else. The reason it's repeated a second time is to limit it to just those two, and therefore he's saying to Rabbi Meir, you cannot learn from Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain until all other time. You don't have to have that. The other possibility is that he's speaking to the Rabbanan and he's arguing on the Rabbanan, and he's saying, you see from the fact that every Tanai is written this way, that every Tanai has to be this way. And therefore he is holding that you do have to have Tanai kafel like Rabbi Meir. Right, now, the Gemara says another Brisa that contradicts this Brisa, both Rabbi Meir against Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim against the Chachamim. And that Brisa is very similar to our Mishnah, which we had on the last daf. The Brisa says, if a man gives wife again, he says, here's you get on the condition that you serve my father for 2 years, or that you nurse my son for 2 years. Same as the case in the Brisa we just brought. Here it says that the father died or the son died, and therefore she doesn't fulfill the Tanai. So Rabbi Meir says it's not a good get. That contradicts Rabbi Meir before, because Rabbi Meir said you have to have a Tanai kafel, and if you don't, then the Tanai is canceled and the get's good. But here he says that the Tanai works, and since she couldn't fulfill it, the get's no good. That's one contradiction. And then you have the Chachamim who say that even though she didn't fulfill the Tanai, it's good. And now this contradicts what we said before, because the Chachamim in the last Brisa said that it's only good if she fulfills the Tanai. So what's going on? So the Gemara says Rabbi Meir against Rabbi Meir is not a kasha. This Brisa, even though it doesn't spell it out, is talking where he said the Tanai kafel. He did it right. The Brisa is written shorthand, but he really did everything. So yes, Rabbi Meir holds you always have to have the Tanai kafel. The first Brisa, he didn't have it, in this Brisa he had it. Now the Rabbanah is not a kasha. The Gemara says the difference between the Rabbanah before and the Rabbanah here is what happens when the Tanai can't be fulfilled through no fault of her own. And that's, the Rabbanan here is not the same Rabbanan. Rabbanan could be different people, it just means not Rabbi Meir. So in the previous Brisa, it's the Rabbanan we saw in our last Mishnah, who hold that if she couldn't fulfill the Tanai, it's too bad, it's not fulfilled, and therefore the get is no good. And here it's Rav Shimon Gamliel in our last Mishnah, who said that if she can't fulfill the Tanai through no fault on her own, it's good anyway. The Gemara now goes on to another mini sugya before our next Mishnah, and that's what happens if he makes 2 different Tanaim 2 different times. So the Brisa says as follows. 2 different cases of how he changes the Tanai. The first case, he says to her in front of 2 Eidim, here's your get on the condition that you serve my father for 2 years. He didn't give her the get. He said, when I'm going to give her the get, that's what the condition will be. And then he goes and he in front of another pair of two Eidim. He says to her, I'm going to give you the get on the condition that you give me 200 zuz. So he made two different Tanaim. So the Brisa rules, the halacha is that neither cancels the other one. He's giving her two options. If she fulfills either of them, the get is a valid get. However, the second case is where the first Tanai was you have to give me 200 zuz, and the second Tanai is you have to give me 300 zuz. There, the second one is clearly overriding the first one, and she can't give him 200 zuz and get away with it. She has to give the 300 zuz. The Brisa ends off and says you can't have witnesses from two different events combining to testify that there was a Tanai. So you can't be talking about the second case, because the second case we said that the first Tanai is canceled. Only the second Tanai is good, so the first pair of witnesses is worthless. So it says, no, we're talking about the first case, and you would have thought that you can use one witness from the first case, from the first Tanai, and one witness from the second Tanai, just to prove that the Tanai happened, and therefore it's telling me that no, you can't. We're now beginning the next Mishnah, which discusses a situation in which the Tanai has been ruined, and therefore the get is ruined, and you no longer have a chance to use the get. And that means to say that he made a Tanai. The Tanai was contingent on one chance to do it. Once he lost the chance, the get can't be fulfilled, and therefore the get can't be used again. So the Mishnah has a simple pshat, and then the Gemara is going to change the pshat to a whole different understanding of what he meant exactly. But we have a case where he's discussing travel. So he gives her the get, and he says, here's your get, on the condition that I don't come back within 30 days. And he was traveling to a specific destination. And the Gemara's original understanding was that he was saying, from when I get there to that spot, even though the Mishnah doesn't spell this out, but that's how the Gemara understands it. From when I get to that place, that's when the 30 days begin. And therefore, if he never gets to that place, the 30 days never start, and the Tanai was never tried and failed. And therefore, he can still use the get again. There was no point at which the Tanai kicked in. The clock never started. The only way that the get is canceled is if he gets to the destination and he comes back within 30 days. Then he specifically canceled the get by coming back within 30 days, and the clock has started from when he got there. So we see from here, in order for the get to work, there has to be a period at which the Tanai started, the clock started, and if he makes it that the Tanai is not fulfilled, then there's no chance to use it again. Now, the Mishnah discusses three locations he may have been aiming to. He may have been in Yehuda and traveling to the Galil, it may have been in the Galil and traveling to Yehuda, and he may have been in Eretz Yisrael and traveling to Chutz La'aretz. The Mishnah has a fourth case, which we'll get to at the end. But in these three, the Mishnah defines for us what's called getting to Galil, what's called getting to Chutz La'aretz, and what's called getting to Yehuda, so that we know when does the clock start. So the Gemara is going to change pshat here, but the first understanding is that the edge of Galil is a place called Antifris. So when he gets to Antifris, the clock starts, and if he doesn't come back within 30 days, the get is fulfilled. If he never gets to Antifris, the Tanai is canceled, the whole thing didn't start, and therefore he could still use the get afterwards. The edge of Yehuda, if he's going the other way from Galil to Yehuda, is a place called Kfar Otnai, and same thing, if he gets to Kfar Otnai, the clock starts, and if he doesn't come back within 30 days, it's good. Comes back within 30 days, it gets canceled. If he never gets to Kfar Otnai, the clock never starts, and therefore he could still use the get later. Now, Chutz La'aretz, the same thing, the border is Akko. Now, the Mishnah has a fourth case, and that's where he says, here's your get on the condition that I am out of here, I'm not in front of your face for 30 days. That means that if I leave at any point for a period of consecutive 30 days, that's when the get's chal. So then if he's traveling back and forth, like he's walking up and down the street all day, but he never has yichud with her for 30 days, that fulfills the get. The Mishnah seems to be understanding that not being in front of you means yichud. The Gemara will discuss that as well. So that's a simple understanding of the Mishnah. The Gemara brings that understanding. The Gemara starts with that, and then the Gemara says it can't be, because you've defined the border of Galil as Antifris, as Antifris means if he got to Antifris, then he got to the Galil, and the clock starts. The border of Yehuda is Kfar Otnai. The Gemara says we have a brisa that says the opposite. The Gemara says that the border of Antifris, that Antifris is the beginning of Yehuda, and Kfar Otnai is the beginning of the Galil, which is the opposite. Which means to say that if someone's traveling from Yehuda to the Galil, if he got to Antifris, he never left Yehuda. He's still within Yehuda, and therefore the clock doesn't start. If he passed Yehuda and he got all the way to Antifris, then he got to the Galil, and the clock starts. If he got to between Yehuda and the Galil, that's a suffix, and it's get vein get, and she has to be considered to be divorced to Chumrah. She's also to Kohanim and all the other halachas that follow with a suffix divorce. And the same thing applies the other way, where we would say that Kfar Tanai is in the Galil, and if he's traveling from Yehuda to Galil, if he gets to Kfar Tanai, he hasn't left. If he gets to Antifris, he has, and if he's in between, then it's a suffix. So the question, therefore, what does our Mishnah mean when our Mishnah says the opposite? Our Mishnah says that if he's traveling from Yehuda to Galil and he got to Antifris, then the Tanai is canceled. What does that mean? It doesn't seem to make sense, since we know that Antifris is not in the Galil. Antifris is really in Yehuda. So the Gemara says really what he was saying was something else entirely. He was saying there are two ways the get could be fulfilled. Let's say he's in Yehuda. So he's saying if I get to the Galil at any point, doesn't matter if I come back or not, the get's fulfilled at that moment. The Tanai is fulfilled and the get is good. Or even if I don't get to Galil, if I'm gone for 30 days, that's good as well. Now the Mishnah says that if he gets to Antifris and he comes back, then he never left Yehuda. Antifris is the border of Yehuda. Antifris is in Yehuda. He never got to the Galil. At this point, then, the only way that this get could be usable is if he fails to come back within 30 days. If he does come back within 30 days, now the get is no good, and there's no way to save it. Why? Because to get to the Galil wasn't dependent on time or anywhere. He said if I get to the Galil, he didn't get to the Galil, so that's off. If I come back within 30 days wasn't dependent on going to Galil, so he can't say, well, the clock never started on that. There was no clock on that. So therefore he's messed up both Tanoim, and therefore the get is canceled, and there's no way to use it anymore. Now, the Gemara says the same thing is true about the case where he wants to go to Chutz La'aretz, and we said if he gets to Akko, then the clock starts. And where it asks about Akko's in Eretz Yisrael. It's the border of Eretz Yisrael, but it's not in Chutz La'aretz. Like we know that the Rabbanan would always part from each other at Akko, because someone who didn't want to leave Eretz Yisrael didn't want to go to Akko at all. He didn't want to go further than Akko, but Akko was where they would say goodbye, so Akko is in Eretz Yisrael. The Gemara says it's the same thing. He's saying two Tanaim. If I get to Chutz La'aretz, it's Chal, or if I don't get to Chutz La'aretz, but I come back within 30 days, it's Chal. So if he never got to Akko, and if he got to Akko, and he never got past Akko, and he didn't come back within 30 days, then he's canceled both Tanaim. He's canceled the Tanai of getting to Chutz La'aretz because he never got to Chutz La'aretz. He's canceled coming back within 30 days because that wasn't dependent on getting anywhere, and therefore the get is canceled. He can't use it anymore. Gemara now goes to the last case. He gave her the get, and he said it's Chal Kozman She'avor Miponecha. That is, anytime I pass from before you for 30 days. And we had said that if he goes back and forth for 30 days, but he never has Yichud, then it's Chal the get. Somebody asks why. He didn't pass from before. He was walking up and down the block. Right, there's two answers. First answer is Ponecha doesn't mean that he leaves her presence. Ponecha means Tashmish. And if he was not miyachid with her, then there was no Tashmish. Anytime 30 days go by without the Tashmish, they get a Chal. Why is Ponecha called a Tashmish? The Gemara says that is a Lishna Ma'aliyah. It's a euphemism. Now, Yechon says a different shot. He says Ponecha means your presence, and he did not leave her presence, correct? When the Mishnah says Harei ze get, this is a get. It doesn't mean that she's divorced. It means the get is still valid. And as long as he is not misached with her, we're not worried that they did a tashmish, because tashmish would ruin the get. It would make it a get yashon. Make it that the get was given and then there was a tashmish afterwards. That destroys it. But as long as there's no yichud, even though he's walking back and forth, it's still waiting for him to disappear for 30 days, and it would still be chal as soon as he did that. More close to Brisa, which spells it out exactly as Rabbi Yechanan says it. If he gives the get and says, this is your get as long as from when I'm away from you for 30 days, and he goes back and forth, since he didn't have yichud with her, it's still a get, and we're not concerned for a get yasha, we're not concerned that there was a tashmish afterwards. The Gemara asks, there should be another concern, so maybe while he was walking around, he was in her presence, maybe he made up with her, and then if the get ends up being chal, because he leaves for 30 days later, he's going to come back afterwards and say, no, I made up with her, that's what I was doing there the whole time. And then he's going to try to passel the get like that. So Umar says, you're right, that's a valid concern. When we must be talking about where he said at the time that he gave the get, that I am giving her full trustworthiness, that if she says we didn't make up, we didn't make up, and I can't claim that we did. Now, some people have this exchange in our Mishnah where he makes it tonight, if I don't come back within 12 months, and he dies within the 12 months, that's a good get. Umar asks, let's be afraid maybe he made up. And Rav Huna answers again, about Murray, because we're talking about where he made the tonight. So now, the Gemara says, so you see, both in this Brisa where he was going back and forth, and in the case of our Mishnah where he was gone for 12 months, we have this concern that maybe it would be a valid concern if he were to claim that he made up with her. So the Gemara says the one who says it on the Brisa would not necessarily say it on the Mishnah. On the Brisa, it's more likely to be a valid concern because Haray is going back and forth this whole time, so he's present. And there's a leg to stand on to say that they made up. The one who says it on the Mishnah, though, even where for 12, where he just left and he didn't come back, we still would be concerned that they made up, would certainly say it on the Brisa where he's going back and forth. We now get to our next Mishnah, which is the Mishnah that was just referenced. And this is talking about where he made a condition that gets only chal if I don't come back after 12 months. The Gemara has a number of cases here. The Mishnah has a number of cases. First case, he says, this is your get if I don't come back within 12 months. That implies the get is only chal after the 12 months that he didn't come back. And he dies within the 12 months, so the get's no good because he died before I had a chance to be chal. If he says, here's your get from now if I don't come back within 12 months, and then he died within the 12 months, it is a good get because he's not coming back anymore, and therefore the Tanai becomes fulfilled, and the get is good at the end of 12 months, and it's Me'achshav, so it's chal from the time that he gave it to her, and which is before he died. Now, if he says, if I don't come from now until 12 months, write a get and give it to my wife, then they went ahead and they wrote the get within the 12 months. He seemed to say, write and give it after the 12 months. Here, he did not die, so that's not an issue. But he said, if I don't come back within 12 months, write and give, but they wrote it first, and then they gave it, that's no good. If, however, he said the opposite order, he said, write and give a get for my wife if I don't come back after 12 months, here you have a machlokes. What happens if they wrote it within the 12 months and they gave it after the 12 months? The Tanna Kama says it's no good, and Messi says kazeget, that is good because he said it in a funny way, and that's what he meant. Now, if he said, write it, if they wrote it, not if he said, if they wrote it after 12 months and they gave it after 12 months, now it depends if he was alive at the time. So then if he died before they gave it, then it's no good. And if he was alive at the time they gave it, then it is good. If it's not known at what point he died relative to the giving of the get, that's what we call a suffix, if she's divorced or if she is an almana. Now again, the Gemara notes that there is a brisa that says that Rabbi Seinu allowed her to get married, even in the case where he gave her the get. He said it's going to be chal if I don't come back within 12 months, and then he died. Even though he didn't say me'achshav, they allowed him to get married. So the Gemara wants to know who is that, who allowed him. He uses the name of Shmuel. It's the Bezdin that allowed the oil of the Kichavim, which the Gemara says is Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi held that there was an automatic me'achshav, even if he didn't say it. And that's because he holds like the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi holds if you give a different type of star, a document, the date on the document proves that you want it to be chal from the